structures, and ultimately, oh, please, let's go back to the recording. All right, thank you so much for joining this second session, and I'm progressing about the topic innovation and design thinking, how to create real-world solutions. So, and I said innovation is a system-based process. In fact, we've gotten to the point where organizations have to collaborate, not only teams again. We have multiple organizations collaborating. Boeing 797, I think, the 777, one of the lead engineers, I was listening to his discussion on YouTube, and he told me about how it took almost 500,000 to about 700,000 people to finish the whole project. So that's to tell you the massive collaboration across several continents to also be able to fine-tune a Boeing, an aircraft in this case. So innovation, if you want to build something great at this point, you must be ready to think in systems. You must be able to think complex and think about complex issues and understand complexity thinking. And then ultimately design thinking, which is actually a way to solve complex problems with minimal specification. We'll soon get there. So with that, what is systems thinking? It's a philosophy and discipline of thinking about the structural and interdependent causes of condition and the consequence of action. I don't want to bore you with those. Your focus should be the capacity to stop thinking linearly and just assuming that if I put 10,000 into something, the outcome will be 100,000. What I need you to know is that if you put 10,000 into a system and in 2 years you get a reward of 100,000, what you don't know is that there are inflationary correction about that 100,000. Within those 2 years apart, the value of your 10,000 may actually be way worthy more than the 100,000. So it's not only about linear thinking about how things work. It's also about thinking about what are the counterfactuals, what are the other things you've missed. The fact that I traded this 10,000 into this system and I'm expecting 100,000 is not only the linear relationship. What if because you let go of the 10,000, you have missed an opportunity to buy a car of $10,000 maybe tomorrow? So those are other counterfactual. You need to think in a system dimension. So for you to innovate, you must be able to think spherically, think globally, think not locally, but globally. How will this thing affect the world at large? And then you start chunking it down to your local environment. You must be able to move from isolation to collaboration. So that means you need thinkers across the world. You need to partner with people. If you're writing paper, don't limit it to only Africa. If you're doing things, make sure you think global. Make sure you collaborate with people across different systems, different teams. And that's why when your department is getting something right, share your experiences with other departments. Perhaps there are other things you need to learn from them as they learn from you. You must be able to think from part to whole and think about the emergence of results. Then you must be able to think from analysis to synthesis. It is good to analyze deeply, but ultimately the goal is for you to produce, is for you to be able to create idea, to birth something. If you have not been able to synthesize, you're possibly not within the systems concept, and then innovation helps you to move from that depth of analysis to depth of synthesis. So prior to analysis, you need knowledge, you need insight, you need to get things to be known. Insight will help you to analyze deeper, but the ultimate goal is for you to synthesize solution in your real world. You see, there's this cover analysis that is being explained when it comes to transformational learning. That is when you want to convert learning to leadership. We say we want to give people choice. We want to give them ownership. We want to give them a voice. But the most important one is that whatever we're giving to you, whatever I'm giving to you today, I want you to be able to apply it authentically to your real world situation. I want your real world scenario to change, to be impacted based on this. So ultimately, systems thinking help you to move from disconnection to interconnection, from independence to interdependence. When you think in system, you have these 6 dynamics. The first dynamics is the dynamics of time. Anytime you're thinking in system or you want to innovate something, you need to go and ask history. What has been done? How was it done? And that's why you must think in time. Then you need to question what the future state of that thing will be. What would it be in the future? So as you're thinking about to solve a problem, you're solving from history, looking at analyzing the present, and now picturing the future. It is that future that will determine what you would embrace today. The dynamics of the people talks about the stakeholders. The stakeholders involved, which involves their opinions, their mindset. You have the structures and the process that are already existing. You need to think about the culture and the context. If I bring an innovative idea from the United States, I must be able to adapt it to the African setting and make it get adopted in that setting based on the available resources per that time, the operational policies, the understanding of the people, their socio-cultural belief, their traditional way of life. I must adapt to it. Outcome is always a function of causality and association. The strength of the association, if it becomes significantly high and it is reproducible according to Bradford Hill's criteria, it will then become an outcome. It will then become a causality, of the outcome. So we must be able to ensure that whatever we are associating with themselves are actually things that truly causes. And the most important thing that drives the car is the gear and the engine system. That's what transport the car from a point A to point B. Every other thing, the steering wheel, the seat, the mirrors, all those are associated factors to the journey. Then the goal is to also explore what's the current intelligence and the insights that we have currently. If we are able to see with these 6 lenses, you will start thinking in system, just like I show here. The structure process produces output produces outcome, and impact within a certain context. In this context now, for you to innovate under a system thinking perspective, you must think about the culture, the geopolitics, the eco-politics, and technological disruption that is currently happening in your world. And when you innovate thinking in system, it helps you with predictability of outcome, then capacity to scale up your impact, and then sustainably. All right, great. So the next thing we should talk about is what is complexity thinking. Complexity thinking is a school of thought within systems thinking developed to address what we call the known unknowns. And then in life, there are also what we call unknown unknowns, things you never know would happen tomorrow. Up until the day from Wuhan, we heard the story of COVID. We never knew. We've known about other viruses with similar capacity. Maybe, but the unknown part of it is we never knew a strain like that could come and within few weeks be distributed by aircraft across the world, and it became a major issue. So we live in a world of uncertainty where Morocco woke up a certain morning and then they were hit by an earthquake. Those are unknown unknowns. We woke up to a world where Russia had to eat Ukraine, where Iran, Israel had tensions. Those are uncertainties that you never could think about. So when you talk about complexity thinking, we're talking about high degree of uncertainty of a desired or unexpected outcome. You have low agreement among system actors because nobody, as it is currently, world leaders have low agreement amongst themselves about the fight between Israel and Palestine, let alone the war that is trying to emanate between Iran and Israel. So low understanding of causal and associative factors, and then there's high tensions within the system. When you have all this, you're already dealing with a complex or a super wicked problem. And the problem with complex thinking issues is that there's non-linearity of outcomes. So you cannot categorically say that if we get this panel together at the United Nations, they will be able to solve the tension between Russia and Ukraine. You must have multi-pronged approach. So when you want to innovate, you must think like you're living in a complex world. And because of that, my innovation must think globally, must think that there's non-linearity of outcomes. So the solutions you will profile must always be a multi-level, multi-tiered solution to every problem you're facing. Recursiveness is another issue with complex systems. Recursiveness means there's repeatability of the process producing a product and the process becoming the product itself. So things keep reoccurring in cycles. Things keep reoccurring in cycle until there is a complete interjection. Emergence and self-organizing independent agent, and then there is capability to maintain duality in the context of unity. So I can be with you, not believe totally with you across all spectrum, and we'll still be friends. A very good example for us in Africa is that we can be of different religion, different tribe, different social strata, and still be both pursuing the same goal at our organization, and still be very dear covenanted brothers in our organization pursuing a goal where our lives depend on each other. And that's what happens in complex systems. And then we have distributed controls in system, which in a way can limit success and of course sometimes failure too. And then we have the dynamic behaviors of different leaders. The dynamic behavior of different leaders across the world are what you cannot predict, because they also have different factors that affect their opinions, their interest per time. So when we and that's about complex thinking. Now over to design thinking, which is actually the bane of our discussion. And I would like to take a lot of time to explain this, because this would truly help us to make things happen. They say we can't solve a problem using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. That's a popular statement by Einstein. Design thinking is a way for us to solve real world problems, thinking complexly, thinking about systems thinking, integrating the two together, and using it to talk to our real world. In our real world, the main tenet of design thinking is empathy for the people you're trying to design for. I want you to know today that if you're not emotionally engaged with the system where you want to innovate, your chances of innovation is almost none. So choose an area of life, a sector, a field where you're emotionally passionate about. Because when the going gets tough, empathy is what will keep you going. The capacity to put yourself in the shoes of the person, think like them, feel their pain, enjoy their experiences, feel their pain, and also be able to see things and embrace it in their real world. That is when you'll be able to design something that is fit for purpose. But more beyond empathy is that you also have to be a leader. You have to know the capacity to build empathy for people that you are entrusted to help. And so being a leader, being a trained eye, all these are what we help with design thinking. Design thinking is therefore a human-centered approach to innovation. It's based on customers' needs, customers' motivation, customers' aspiration, customers' goals. All these are what you integrate together to create a prototype of what you think they should be solved for them, and then generate creative ideas that would transform the way those solutions, those services would help them. One thing I need you to know is that the world has so many ill-defined, vague problems with minimal specification. And your capacity to focus on one or two of those problems and sit down with them and be able to resolve them will go a long way to help with design, will go a long way to make you an innovator. Design thinking brings about three things. Number one, desirability. What makes sense to the people or for the people? That's one part of the equation. The second part of the equation is it must be technologically possible to be manufactured or to be developed. Because at the current rate where we are, technology still has its limitation. Like I told you, every perfect solution, perfect or excellent solution has its own imperfection, because we live in an imperfect world, right? And then the third thing is business viability. It must be sustainable based on business principle, based on economic principle, because people must be able to dip their hand into pocket and exchange their resources for whatever you're developing. Otherwise, you will not be able to commercialize the idea. And the goal for us is that you should solve real world problems. But more importantly for us is that you are able to create a real world solution that can back socioeconomic transformation for you, your team, your family, and be able to connect you to the real world to impact it socially again and again. So the integration of desirability, viability, and feasibility, technological visibility in this case, is what makes design different. So design is not just what it looks like, it is focusing on how it works. Look at these beautiful companies, beautiful, colorful. All of them have had to embrace design thinking consistently to be able to achieve better outcomes in what they do. And I just took a snapshot of some, many more. Even us at Valdymas Intelligence are embracing design thinking in the way we talk to our clients, engage them, embrace them, speak with them, integrate with them, interact with them. We have to think through what are their pain points. And very soon you will see how things are done. So the first thing about design thinking, I want you to know the why. How do we create a better and more enjoyable experiences everywhere we go? That should be a crucial driving factor for you if you want to be an innovator. Everywhere you go, look at what is happening around you. When people get annoyed in your corridor, when you're asking them what is the cause of their annoyance, what's the cause of their frustration. So I went to a facility many years ago and I saw that the people kept complaining about the distance from the theater to the pharmacy for them to go and get the medication. And all we needed to do was come up with an application that can actually make them from the theater order a medication from the pharmacy, pay on the app, and then the pharmacy delivers it to them within a short period of time. We put an SLA. And so that is just a way to solve a problem. And it was simply because you had someone just lamenting or complaining about something that this distance. So, which means everyone's frustration around you from today onwards becomes your opportunity to be an innovator. All you just need to do is, how do I create a better and more enjoyable experience for this person? And it becomes simply, and then you start thinking, how can I technologically make this happen? How can I commercialize this and build it to scale? So the why is that, why are we into design thinking? Expectations of people keeps changing. Demands keeps rising for better experiences. Everyone now knows that I need a better car. I need to sit on a car that can massage my back while driving. There is a divide between customers and business technology experiences. You see, the folks, the experts in the business technology world, their thinking is different. The customer's thinking is different. But ultimately, it's the customer that would pay. It's the customer that would celebrate, appreciate what you've done. So you have to align and give value to the customer. So that means it is not about how you think it. It's about how the people will use it, will embrace it. One thing that has been very funny is that the observed reality has always often been different from the stated reality. So when you go to ask people, what is the cause of your frustration? How they state it is not always like how it's been observed. So we need trained eyes to observe. That's my goal. We need trained eyes to observe the reality. So one thing I want you to know is that even when you go to meet people, that why are you being frustrated? What's the cause of the problem? You must go with the mindset that what they will most likely state is not essentially what they truly need. But it's your responsibility to listen to them, gather everything together. Now go and start observing them. You can go and interview them again. You can give them data and analyze together. You can do surveys. You can do so many data gathering methods, brainstorming, and then you will be able to understand what the real reality for them is. Then another problem with human beings is that people don't envision a future that is very different from their today. Nobody knows that we can fly when we were even running in an horse-driven cart. So when you go and ask an horse-driven cart person, what's the problem? They will never be able to tell you about aeroplane. Whereas, look at how well aeroplane has compressed time. If I want to do an horse-driven car from here to New York, I probably will be spending like 1 week, if possible, on the way. But if I need to fly now, I only need to book an aircraft, and in another 3 to 4 hours, I'll be in New York. If I have my private jet, I'll probably be there even maybe a lot faster. So people really don't envision a future. So when you're asking questions, you must think that way. Creative people, creative minds, if you don't empower them with deep insight and focus, they often end up solving the wrong problem. So even we as innovators, if we don't get the right insight, we may end up solving the wrong problem for the customer. And that's why we must always touch base with the customer to ensure that our solution is still in alignment with them. Because of our own creative mind can just go wild. And that's why design thinking is there to keep us in focus. Then we need solutions that deliver valuable experiences, connecting people on aspirational and emotional needs. That is, their needs, their behaviors, and their aspiration must be connected together. Hence the need for design thinking. So I just scribbled the 4 pillars of design thinking. The first one is the deep learning of the user's needs, motivations, aspiration, goals, their behavior, understanding how they think, why they think that way, and what is so dear to them, and why they will let go of their money. Number 2 is continuous exploration to keep finding consistent patterns. Pattern like November every year in the United States, there's what we call the Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And you see that whole week is also the Thanksgiving week. So everyone is on holiday. People have enough time to storm a mall and buy out everything in that mall. So as a design thinker, I'm planning towards that time. I'm creating things. I'm trying to design things towards that time. And I know it's also a time where temperature is dropping. It's the fall. It's close to winter and it's fall. So I also must think about clothing, materials that will be able to adapt to that season. So that's how a design thinker thinks. You look for the consistent pattern. So in your environment, what are the geographical similarities? Things that you know happens. Towards December, the prices of things goes high. What are the things that people wants to buy? Why are they buying it? So these are the questions that must come to your mind if you want to innovate in a real world scenario. Then you must be able to prototype whatever you have and ask questions from people. You prototype classically, but actively from people. You ask your colleague. You have a physical prototyping, you have a digital prototyping, and you have you have a virtual physical, and then you have a well-built prototype that you go and demo to people, and then you ask questions. So, and then ultimately you must know that whatever we're designing, we have to consistently increase its functionality and iteratively increase its elegance and performance. I want us to know that there are 5 this thing. This was propounded by some folks from Stanford, and I think backed up by some friends from Harvard as well. The first thing is empathize. I've said it. Empathy is a crucial goal to design thinking. You must conduct research to develop an understanding of the user. But the understanding of the user we're talking about is that deep understanding that you can relate with. Number 2 is that you must be able to define. After all your research, you must be able to combine all your research and observe where user problem exists, identify the patterns for solution, and then you start ideating for solution. Now, in ideating for solution, you must be able to generate as many good ideas as possible. Because the truth about it is the ultimate idea you will pick may come from unexpected sources. So to get that fine idea, you need a lot of ideas. And it is crucial for you because you know that you have budgetary constraint, environmental constraint, legal constraint, political constraint, maybe socio-technological, socio-economic, geopolitical constraint, geographical constraint, as the case is. So because of that, you generate enough ideas so that by the time you start applying those constraints or human limitations, it will help you to narrow down to the best one. And then you create a prototype. When you create a prototype, you can create a physical prototype, virtual prototype for people to see how the system will work. And then you can actually build up the prototype and then use it to demo to people. And then when you're demoing, you're doing what we call the user acceptance testing. We have different forms of tests that humans have done. You know, if I'm building an e-commerce site, I used to think about it. The place where people will check out, I will not only put the knob in one place, I'll put it at the top and at the bottom. Just like the way Amazon is doing. The reason why I'll put it at 2 different places is that even if you miss it at the top, you won't miss it at the base. I want you to check out easily because that's where I get my money. So I designed the system to make life easy for you, and then to make my getting money also become easy. So I'm thinking in design, testing the different models, creating what we call the A/B testing. I put 2 different options, 3 different options for people, and I allow them test in what we call the user acceptance test. And sometimes I even go as far as doing a performance testing, put data load on whatever I've built and ensure that it is able to deliver to purpose. Like I can impute data of 3 million over my software and use it to test if my software will be able to deliver. So that on a day when there is a spike and people needed to, just like when we had the cash issues in Nigeria and people had to resort to using USSD code and online transfer, the system crashed in 24 to 48 hours. That's simply because the load testing, the performance testing that was done for it did not anticipate that kind of run. So if you would take something away from the concept of design thinking, know that you must empathize, know that you must be ready to define smartly, specifically, measurably, and of course, it must be realistic, achievable, and then time bound. Then you must be able to ideate. Then you must create prototypes, test the process, and implement. But when you're implementing, you're also implementing incrementally and iteratively. I put this roadmap to show how product management skills are used for design system. Of course, we have the user analysis, market research, we have the analytics, prioritization, and ultimately till the product gets to market. Now, to best innovate, we need to go beyond the following. We need to just go beyond analyzing data, trends, listings, and figures. You need to go beyond the knowledge that is known within your domain. You need to explore other known unknowns across other domains. Let me tell you so many things. Healthcare has learned so much from nuclear medicine, nuclear reactor manufacturing. Healthcare quality system had learned from aviation industry, because those are other higher reliability organizations. And because they are high reliability organization altogether, they have to learn from one another to be able to improve their system and give deference to expertise, sensitivity to operation, and ensure that they keep the system safe consistently. You don't want to have a nuclear reactor that is always catching fire every year. You don't want to have an aircraft that is always rising and crashing. You want to keep the system as safe as possible. Then you must continuously analyze market trends and competitive edge analysis. You must constantly do that, but we must go beyond that if we need to innovate. Insight from other businesses and secondary sources are also critical. I'm talking about secondary sources like academia, like R&D industries, L&D industries, consulting firms, branding organizations. All these organizations or marketing research institutions, they have a lot of data, but we must go beyond them. Now, if we are going to go beyond them, where do we need to land? We must land to the point of deep learning of what motivates and inspires the user. That means every time our goal is to extract rich insight, not just general. We must move from superficial to profound. We must use direct observation of the people. That means you must go and sit with the people, become the people. So if I want to solve a problem in education now, I need to go into the schools, sit down with the student, learn with them, understand the teacher's perspective, do work with the teacher, be a TA, work with the teacher, know what our problem is, and be able to solve with her. Ensuring a trained eye, you must become a trained eye. So we must keep this training ongoing. This is foundational. We must keep training ourselves until our eyes be able to see people in their natural habitat and extract what their problem is. We must be able to ultimately create knowledge articles, documentation of the people's value and business context challenges, create actionable stories with experience maps and touch point. Touch point are painful point for people where you can see that, okay, if they find a solution at this critical point, their life will become better. Just like someone who needs to transport themselves from point A to point B. He does not want to buy a car because of the expenses of maintaining the insurance. Then Uber becomes a solution to that person. He wants a car to himself. He wants a cool driver where he just sits down, enjoys the music, and is able to transport himself from a point A to a point B. He does not want to own a car, less ends he faces this thing, having to pay for several other things about the car. And so he enjoys the best of a car without taking full responsibility for maintaining the car. And Uber came to be, and it disrupted the taxi system, and it becomes a multi-billion-dollar organization. So that is a thinking that fixes the touch point of different people. And then you must develop your customer model, just like the model of a customer I just described now, who is an office person who needs to get to office early in the morning, close late in the evening. And then you must be able to prioritize and draw a product roadmap based on identified pattern and be able to generate great results. These are the general 6 phases of software development lifecycle. I sniped this from a side, but ultimately the whole idea is I want you to see where design thinking fits in the whole process of development. So after all the depth of analysis, design thinking is where the system architect, and this is just for softwares. For other things like manufacturing a car, other product, there are different roadmaps or flowcharts for those, but which are something similar with this actually. The goal is that at leadership level, we do a lot of depth of analysis, and then we allow the people at the technological realm, the system architect, to see the technological viability of what we're designing. And then we get the UX, UI, user experience is UX, UI is user interface designer, to be able to walk through the whole scenario and design something that will be fitting for humans. Humans will love it, will make user easy, usability easy, and usability more friendly, and they won't get frustrated. And then we ship it to the development folks, and then we test. We test at different level. Even while developing, we use unit testing, functional testing, integration testing. And then at other testing level, we do load testing, performance testing, and all other form of user acceptance testing. And so we do QA between development and testing, and then we deploy. Even when we deploy, we still keep testing and keep getting feedback. And then we move into the maintenance phase. Yeah, I want to thank you so much for listening to me. This is my book, Transforming the Impossible, incorporating the 9 needed agile quality minds for leading sustainable improvement, innovations, and transformation. It also has a workbook now. Both are available on Amazon. So you can pick them up at your earliest convenience on Amazon. As I'm trying to wrap up, I want you to know that there's a concept called the Great Focused Innovation and Transformation. And I want you to know that if you're going to innovate, you will need a whole lot of faith in yourself, in your system, in building a team, collaborative team, in working together. You will now need to translate that faith into what we call focus and consistency. You must be focused. So what I'm saying is you cannot innovate by being a general mind. You will not innovate by being jumping from one industry to another. If you want to be an innovator, you have to stick with, settle there, study this process, their system, understand all their pain point, flash point, touch point, issues point, and then sit down with them, observe them with a keen eye, analyze data, generate deep insight of it. So if you're in the education world, sit within education, take a microcosm of that part and think about transforming it. If you're in healthcare, sit in that area and think. If you're in politics, sit in that area and solve. If you're in religion, if you're in different sectors of the world, sit in that area and make a focused approach to consistently birth new ideas, new solutions, and keep pushing ahead, because it is only when you do that. I can give you an example of John Harrison. That was the man I told you that actually changed the way we now know the ship's precise location at sea. People now he has created timelines, an instrument, the compass that helps a ship to know that this is exactly where I am on the world. Many years ago, people don't know that. And I can bet you that this man, Harrison, did it over 47 or 53 years. He was focused, and he moved from what we call the H1 to H2 to H3 to H4. H4 is more smaller, more compact, more accurate, and is able to determine the ship's precise location at sea. What the world has been doing ever since that, and this man was just an English carpenter who now focused on solving that problem. He focused his whole life, almost all his entire life, to solve the problem. And he won several awards. He won the British funds for that. So what I'm saying is, if you will be innovators, you must be focused. And you must think about how to transform the systems around you. But more importantly, your mind must first embrace the capacity for innovation. And that's why I said transforming the impossible is all about you. If you want to become an innovator, it is about you. The first capacity to build is within your mind. To first start seeing, thinking, analyzing things like an innovator. When you embrace such capacity in you, that is when you'll be able to start thinking, building teams. You will be a learner, you will be a listener, you will be a thinker, you will be an lean, agile thinker. You will be able to compress things. You will be someone who has embraced joy in their heart, because you will fail several times along the line. You will fail a 1,000 times, the guy who did the electric bulb. So you can fail a lot of times, but the goal is that you're smiling even when you're failing, and ultimately you would innovate yourself into success and into great transformation. And like I always tell people as I wrap up my presentation, moments define leaders. Crucial moment makes the difference. If you work yourself not to be tied with the social concept of the way the world thinks, if you help yourself, you can leverage on Kairos moment if you are prepared. And that's why they said opportunity is for the prepared mind. If you're prepared, you've been working with your focused mind over time, the opportunity for solution will come at a time. There will be moments where you will connect all the missing dots in your ecosystem together. In those kairos moments, don't be a socialized mind. Please be a transforming mind so that you'll be able to bat a solution that can change the world, that can make our world a more easy place to live. This solution that we're leveraging on today is a product of some people's thinking. I want to ask you in 4, 5, 7, 10, 15 years' time, what are you going to give to the world that will make it easy for us, that will make it less expensive for us, more empowering, more encouraging, more eloquent, more elegant, give us something more efficient. That is the goal. I want to thank you so much. You can listen to several other videos on my YouTube channel. You can just search my name, Dr. Joshua Kolawole, on YouTube. You have several other videos about system thinking, transformational leadership, innovation, and this will give you a clearer insight into our discussion. I want to appreciate Inspiration NG also for this opportunity, and hopefully we have another excellent session tomorrow. I hope I'm able to do justice to this, and I hope you have learned a lot. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, Scott, for your time. For having you tomorrow. But I want to right there in the internet. Please wait to go out to your daily work. So let's give you a quick and forward together to wrap up the session. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. Stay blessed.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Can we put the light together? Look up.